Today's guest takes us where technology meets the river. He shared the stage with Bill Gates multiple times, leads the charge in AI, and still finds time to run a guide business in the Sierras. We're heading into California to explore its wide variety of fly fishing, from the bays to the beaches to Baja and high mountain streams chasing golden trout. By the end of this episode, you will walk away with fresh tools and inspiration for planning your next fly fishing adventure. This is the Wet Fly Swing podcast, where I show you the best place to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species we all love. Tim Huckaby, Microsoft executive and guru on AI, is going to walk us through the Sierra Nevadas, what he does there for guiding. He's going to take us into San Diego, all the diversity of species down there, and all the interest that creates this amazing life he has going. You're going to find out what big species you can find in the bays of California and why the Huckaby kayak is a must-have if you're heading down there. You're also going to get a few tips on fishing the Golden Trout wilderness and what you can do if you're planning a trip down in that area. He knows it very well. Plus, we're going to find out what good AI and what bad AI looks like in the outdoors, coming from the man who's creating it. A very interesting conversation. So let's get this one going. Here he is, Tim Huckaby from timhuckaby.com and san diego flyfishers.com. How you doing, Tim?
Fantastic. Great to be here, Dave.
Yeah. This is going to be a really fun, I think, a unique episode because you're in a place that we've done a few episodes. I mean, where you live, actually, San Diego, but you fish in kind of up in Northern California. You do a lot of traveling. I think a lot of our listeners are interested in places to travel to. And the other unique thing is you're a technologist. You have this background in like AI working, Bill Gates, the whole thing, Silicon Valley, right? I'm sure is part of your world. So I'm really interested to talk about that a little bit too. But before we get into all that, maybe let's just kind of take it back to, your website, timhuckaby.com. I mean, how did all this come to be where you've got this tech going and then you also have this, kind of some guiding and stuff like that?
Well, I guess it's like, how in the world does a software executive that stands on stage with Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer become a fly fisherman? And
right. That's it.
That's a, fairly long story. I'll make it short, but I got invited to a fly fishing trip by some college buddies of mine. They said that they had an extra spot. They said, "Oh, we'll help you out. You won't have to spend a lot of money, blah, blah, blah." And of course, it was the exact opposite. The minute we hit the water, they disappeared. And I had to figure it out myself, but I did. And I have this obsessive personality, not obsessive compulsive, but obsessive. So I just dove headfirst in, learned, this is, 35, 40 years ago now, learned everything I could about fly fishing, read everything I could, watched everything I could, and just went over the top. And that's kind of my software life too. If I want to learn something, I learn it 100%. I know typically, which means I could be pretty narrow in scope in some things and pretty broad in other things. In any event, in my career working with Microsoft since, the late 90s, Microsoft sent me all over the world. And I would, on every trip without exception, either bring a fly rod with me or a snowboard with me. And that prescription of work-life balance just worked, just made for a fantastic life for me. So I've been super lucky. Microsoft has paid for me to fish all over the world. I've chased Atlantic salmon in Lakselv, Norway on the Arctic Circle,
Wow.
And certainly all around the U.S. My Garmin GPS in my truck has marked locations of where to park, like in almost 50 states where you can fly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's been a fun ride. And like I said, I'm, a little bit obsessive. So that turned into guiding. It turned into tying flies professionally, venting flies. Because I'm a software guy by trade, it's not my job, to sell flies or guide or things. I do it because I love it. And then I just love teaching people, especially beginners, especially kids, how to fly fish. So, in terms of my fly fishing life, it's very contrasted. Down here in San Diego, it's all saltwater fishing, right? There's only one place left in San Diego County that has wild trout. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And getting to them, I was just helping some kids in email trying to figure out how to get to them. Getting to them is arduous. So we do a lot of saltwater fly fishing. I'm the president of the San Diego Fly Fishers Club, which you would think, we were joking earlier, would be the 12 old guys, but it's 350 active members and 200 events a year. But the interesting thing, I think, for your audience, because of where we're located, is we have not just one or two, but a huge number of lifetime fly fishers, men and women, who have never fished for trout.
Oh, wow.
Just think about that, because we don't have them. They're experts at saltwater fly fishing, which means our bays, the surf, and then offshore.
Right.
And then we're so close to Baja.
Is this the reverse then with the people that, everybody there, they're mostly saltwater. Do they have bucket lists of going for these trout? Or because, usually you hear people, you get started in trout fishing and then eventually you might get into saltwater, right? Does it work the other way?
No, it doesn't. At least in my experience.
That means saltwater is so amazing. That means that, right, that you just start at the top and you don't go.
I think it's they don't know what they're missing type of thing.
Right.
That nothing fights like a trout. We all know that they go ballistic.
Yeah.
The saltwater fish pull hard, and some of the species, mako sharks, some of the tuna, a 12-inch mackerel will fight you like crazy on a little 5-weight. Some of the species fight. Dorados jump around in Baja, and they fight pretty good. But, pound for pound, in my personal opinion, nothing fights like a wild native trout. Nothing. Yeah. So they'd have no interest in driving 300 miles north to go fishing, to hike their ass off. They have no desire to hike for miles and miles and miles at altitude to catch 6-inch fish. Only people that have done that know how special it is, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, I think it is. That's the cool thing about the fly fishing is that it could be a 6-inch brook trout, in some high mountain stream or whatever, and it's the ultimate. It's just as good as a mako shark, right?
Totally agree. I was just last weekend. I was up in the Sierras fishing small creeks because the rivers are too big right now. And just that vicious take from that 10-inch wild trout is just so fun because you got to make the perfect cast because it's all overgrown and so fun.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. I think we've got definitely we're going to talk about some of the places you've been to. It sounds like you've been all over, the U.S. and also abroad. So we're going to talk about that. I want to hear a little bit because the Microsoft thing is so interesting to me. Bill Gates, you've been on stage, all this stuff. Maybe talk about that as an executive. I mean, I'm guessing a lot of people, me as well, don't understand what that's like. I picture somebody that's just working all the time and is in this tech world. How does the tech world, how is it different from being there and then when you're in the fly fishing world, like doing that stuff?
Yeah. It's a lot different, right? As you can imagine. So, that long story short, I worked at Microsoft in the late 90s on Windows Server. In fact, Windows NT for your listeners who have...
NT. Right. So before Windows NT, was that the first Windows that came out?
That was the first legitimate Microsoft Server product. When I worked on the internet side of things, your listeners maybe remember that famous email from Bill Gates that said, "We're behind on the internet. We have to commit to the internet right now." Blah, 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 blah. Famous email.
Is it? No, I don't know that email. So this email he sent out to like company employees?
The entire company.
And what did it say essentially? It said basically we're behind, we're getting beat?
It said, hey, we're way behind. We missed the internet boat. This is 1998.
Oh, wow. So 1998, this is amazing because I remember that 1998. I remember I was just starting to learn about, I was behind a little bit too. I was just starting to learn about email and stuff, I think, back then.
Yeah. So, I worked on the internet server product, which is called IAS, and then this other product called Site Server, which was a competitor to the Lotus product, which was just kicking our ass. Or the IBM product and the Lotus product, we're getting our ass kicked there. So, but Windows NT is just a fantastic operating system. People, there's a cult following for Windows NT. Anyways, I worked a couple years up there and had a career path there. And my wife said, I am not moving to Redmond, Washington, which is not Seattle.
Right.
It's Eastern Washington. By the way, you can catch salmon just 18 miles from the Microsoft
Oh,
campus.
nice.
Right.
Nice.
So in any event, in my career, I've now founded 3 software startups. So I'm on my third one. And from Microsoft, I went and started this really cool company. We built a lot of awesome software, but I always had my Microsoft connections. In fact, you'll love this. I can't name names, but the people that I was working with that were my age in 1998 are now the people running Microsoft,
Oh, really?
the top 5 people. And one might speculate that I do an annual fly fishing trip in Montana with these people.
Oh, there you go.
I've even turned those people into fly fishers for at least once a year.
For once. And I haven't seen Bill Gates out there with the fly rod, so I'm guessing he's
Nah.
not in it.
Yeah. It's, fly fishing's two-handed, so he can't read a book at the same time. He'll play golf because in between shots he can read a book.
Oh, right. Is that? Do you know Bill Gates a little bit? What's he? Is it? I mean, you've spent some time back in the day. What's he like?
I haven't seen him since he retired, in all honesty, which means a long time ago. But I did do some keynotes with him. I'm the guy that no one noticed on stage doing the demo because everyone's staring at Bill Gates. And I do have some amusing stories about him, but his life, and I'm sure it's still very, very, his life is so complicated.
Right.
I saw firsthand how miserable his life can be with so many people pulling on him.
Oh, right.
That there's a certain point of wealth where, you just don't have buddies anymore.
Right.
I'm sure if I ran into him here in San Diego, he'd be like, "Oh, Tim, how the hell are you?"
Right. Well, that's the funny thing about the wealth thing because, eventually you can only have so much money, right? I mean, like you get to a point where you need more billions of dollars, right? You're pretty much set, your family's set. Like, so I guess, right, there's that whole thing interesting there. But no, we won't go too deep into that because that's something maybe for another episode. But I love that, background that you have there.
Well, in all honesty, Dave, every Bill Gates story I have, and some of them are crying funny, have the F word in them. So they're not appropriate for
Oh, right. Is that because Bill was used this?
Filthy mouth at the time.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, Steve Ballmer actually is kind of the opposite, super fun. Bill Gates had to go on script. He would lose his temper if you didn't do a keynote and it went on script. Steve Ballmer is the opposite. He loved when things screw up. That gave him humor opportunities, and it made it more interesting for him.
Steve Ballmer, what was his connection to all that?
He was the CEO after Bill Gates stepped down from CEO. Steve Ballmer was the CEO for a good decade. He single-handedly, not many people know this, but he's responsible for Microsoft Azure, which is their cloud platform. And he is the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers basketball team.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So he's all about fun. Great guy.
He's all about fun. Cool. Well, it is interesting. I always love it because you always have the Microsoft and then the Mac thing, right? We've had some conversations about that. I'm in the Mac world, right? But there's this, I think Microsoft is much bigger. Or no, well, I guess that's interesting because Microsoft for the computers is much bigger, I think. But Microsoft or Apple obviously has the phones and all that. But what's that? What's your take on all that stuff real quick on the Apple versus Mac?
A decade ago, Microsoft did a really smart thing and accepted everyone as partners. So your iTunes, that all runs on Microsoft Azure. Not many people knew that. All the backend, all that cloud stuff for Apple, that runs on Microsoft. Microsoft has a suite of Apple software that's unparalleled, right? The Office suite. All the developers on my team use Macs, but they use Microsoft software on Mac.
Yeah, why is that? Why do developers on your team use Macs? And why do people love Macs?
That's a great question because they're young and trendy. They're not old Windows.
Okay, because I know why I use a Mac. Here's my Mac story real quick for you. You'll love this. I was always a PC guy, mainly probably because they were less expensive, right? I never bought a Mac.
Exactly.
And I went through for a period of time, every 2 years, my laptop would just die. I mean, whatever the computer was, it would die. And I was like, what the heck? And then like 2 or 3 died. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to spend 5 times as much money and buy this Mac and see what happens. And I did. And guess what? 10 years later, I'm still like addicted to Macs. And so I don't know. I've never had a problem with one. And I don't know if that's because there's more viruses out there for or you know what I mean, for the PC world versus Mac. Again, we're talking PC versus Mac. I'm not sure how that changes with Microsoft, but you know what I mean? So that's my take on it. I'm not sure if I'm even right on or with any of that.
No, you're spot on. And you said it earlier, it cost. The reason I don't use a Mac is because they're so much more expensive. Now, my dad used to say in life, you get what you pay for, right? And that's why the Macs are so brilliantly designed. And that's why they last. In fact, they outlast themselves.
Right.
Unlike a US car that is designed to die after 20 years, they just don't die. They just get slow. If you want to continue on this path, another
let's keep going. For those tech people, they're gonna love this.
This is a super interesting thing that most people don't realize. Microsoft beat Apple to the touchscreen thing.
Oh wow!
And that was with, believe it or not, Windows Vista.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, piece of crap operating system. Well, a great operating system with 10 huge bugs. Anyways, the iPad came shortly thereafter, and then the iPhone. Well, Apple went to Intel and said, hey, we need a CPU for this revolutionary telephone we're going to build. This is actually Steve Jobs.
Right.
And we want you guys to do it. And Intel, said, screw you. You're that's not going to be cost effective for us. That thing's never going to go.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Intel is just such a magically awesome company, but they've made some serious mistakes throughout the years, and that was one of them. So Apple went, the big guns at Microsoft, like Dave Cutler, I assume, who invented the OS, and said, "Hey, what do we do?" And Microsoft, I think, guided them to, you're going to have to build your own CPU, and they did. Apple built their own CPU. And it happened to come out, because it's on a reduced instruction set, it happened to come out faster and less battery draw than anything on the market.
Oh,
they
wow.
revolutionized the CPU.
And what is a CPU? And what is a CPU? What's that stand for?
The brains of the computer. That's what's facilitating AI, the processing power.
The processing.
Yeah. So with that basic CPU that Apple invented, they moved it over to Mac, and now those M series chips on the Macs, oh my God, they're so powerful. Powerful to the point that I know tons of people who just buy a Mac, wipe the thing clean, and install Windows on it.
Oh wow, no kidding.
That's how good that machine is.
Right, that's the MacBook Pro or whatever.
Yeah. Or any line of their M series of chips.
Wow.
And they're coming down in cost. Well, of course, we got this tariff thing going, so who knows what'll happen.
Yeah.
But they're actually coming down to cost. And I've said a million times, God, I should buy a Mac. God, I should buy a Mac.
Yeah, I know.
But I'd rather buy a $1,200 fly rod.
Right. That's do you want the fly rod or the Mac? Yeah.
Or new waders. Right?
Or new waders. I know. It's really interesting.
Or a new kayak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a world-class fly fishing experience, it's time to check out Mountain Waters Resort. Nestled along Newfoundland's legendary Portland Creek, this spot has a history that runs as deep as the Atlantic salmon that call it home. Once a fly fishing retreat for the Great Lee Wolf, today, it's your turn to step into these historic waters and swing up your salmon this year. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/mountainwaters right now and make it happen. That's wetflyswing.com/mountainwaters. Let's get out there today.
This is great. I'm glad we had a little tech talk here, so maybe we'll save a few questions till the end. But let's jump into a little bit on, you mentioned you've traveled all around the country. Maybe we can start there. As you look around at what you've done in the U.S., you've got all these 50 states. What do you think? If you had a top list of states, do you have that where you're thinking, okay, these are my favorite places I'd love to go back to?
Yeah, I get asked this all the time. What's your favorite place to fly fish? And I could give you 50. And my answer usually is, well, it's the one I'm at. But as I get older, I found, that just without this becoming trite or obvious, I know my way around a Western trout stream. So I've become infatuated with stuff I'm not an expert in. This whole saltwater fly fishing in a Hobie kayak thing. Oh my goodness, it's so fun. And I've learned so much. It's so different. And, largemouth fishing. in a lake, whether it be a float tube or a kayak. I've learned so much about this world. Throwing popper flies into just dead still water and having this enormous bass come up and take it. So fun.
That is cool.
So I guess the point is I tend to aggregate or move to stuff that I don't have expertise in because I just love learning about it. And frankly, in the San Diego Fly Fishers Club, there are so many experts. And isn't it always the case, Dave, that fly fishers are typically the ones that are more than willing to help, right? They just go out of their way to help. Fly fishermen will, if a beginner walks up on a stream and they're killing it in a hole, they will give that hole to the beginner because that's what we do. So these folks in the club, and I think it's important to tell you that in the San Diego Fly Fishing Club, the freshwater bass experts are all females.
Really?
They're just killers. They are. One of them, Kim Jones, I called the queen of Lake Barrett. Lake Barrett is a very famous lake here in San Diego County. It's been in all the fly fishing magazines. It's been in all the fly fishing shows. And we get to rent it from the city of San Diego for ourselves in the beginning of the season every year. Anyways, these women have helped me so much on learning how. So that's what I love to do. So the point is, if I go to the East Coast, or out where you live, your bugs are different. And shoot, you fish the Delaware River and, upstate New York, and they have their flies are white. Our flies aren't white.
Right. Different bugs. Yeah.
Sulfur things, I want to say that the trout hold differently and they strike differently too. So I'm always on a learning curve if I'm out east. Brook trout are brook trout. They're spread everywhere. They attack like crazy. They fight. They're easy to catch. They don't get typically huge, at least out here. And then we have the golden trout thing out here.
Yeah, you have the golden trout too, which is cool. What about you mentioned the saltwater kayaking. So what does that look like for San Diego? We've had a couple episodes down there on some of that, but what are the big things people are going for salt if you're down in, like the 300 members that are in your group there?
Well, the way to do 200 events a year is every Wednesday, a group of them go out on San Diego Bay. So there's 52 right there. Okay. And I'm not kidding when I tell you these guys go out on Easter and Christmas. They're just nuts. And it could be raining sideways, and these guys will be in their float tubes in San Diego Bay. So in San Diego Bay, we have like 30 plus native species to catch. Cold water, sinking lines. Nothing comes up, right? But we also have the remnants of some hurricanes in the past. So for instance, we have a significant population of bonefish in San Diego Bay, and they got washed up north from a Mexican hurricane and landed in the bay and just thrived there. We have green sea turtles from Hawaii in San Diego Bay, a huge population of them.
Crazy.
So the point is, you never know what you're going to catch. Now, being that said, 8 times out of 10, you catch spotted bay bass. We call them spotties here. They get big. They fight pretty good for about, 20, 30 seconds. But, 2 times out of 10, you're going to go, what the hell is that? Or at least I do. I'm like, what is that? And somebody will say, oh, that's a sargo. And I'll be like, what's a sargo? Right? So you just end up catching a ton of different species. We up north here where I live in Carlsbad, California, we have a number of bays in Carlsbad. One is within a couple miles of my house. And I railed a white sea bass the other day. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, just a couple miles from my house in my kayak. We use these Huckaby kayaks that have the pedals.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that. I want to hear because I've never done the Huckaby. I mean, I've been in them, but I haven't done it for like in the salt. What are those? Are pretty cool.
Changed my life. The problem, the huge problem with these Huckaby Mirage kayaks is they're so expensive. But oh my goodness, I'm glad I made the purchase. There's a good 50 of us that own these Huckaby kayaks. And the cool thing is you can go in reverse. So when we go down to Baja and we camp and we fish in the mangroves on the Pacific side, right? There are some species that attack on top. The broom-tailed grouper, Corvina with a V.
Corvina.
Yeah.
Corvina.
And if you don't, just like conventional in Florida, when you hook these guys, if you don't freaking pull them out of the mangroves, you lose. Right. So you ram that thing in reverse and you start stripping line, trying to get them away from the mangroves. And the mangroves are so tight, you got to go in reverse. It's like, driving a truck down a one-way street and going in reverse. It could be difficult, so we do a lot of bay fishing, lake fishing, and then the Baja thing, which is just awesome.
But yeah, bays, lakes, and Baja.
In these kayaks. Now, there are competitors for Hobie, of course, pedal type kayaks, but that's the thing. Fly fishing is a two-handed thing and you need your hands free. So
if you go down there, if you're down in fishing any of these areas, bays, lakes, Baja, are you seeing lots of these Hobies or are you seeing more other floating devices?
No, it's mainly Hobie that owns the fly fishing thing.
Okay, you mentioned float tube. So guys are out there in like float tubes doing some stuff?
In our bays, without a doubt. It just in a float tube, we have tidal swings, and some of our bays have significant tidal swings. So it's not unsafe, but you don't want to be dragged out into the ocean because the tide is moving as fast as the Madison River in Montana. And it's happened to me a couple times, and I'm...
Oh, really? You've been out on the ocean?
That my bay, Agua Hedionda, has this huge tidal swing because it's kind of like a Coke bottle. It's choked down. And if you could get caught in that thing, again, it's not unsafe because you're just being pulled away. But, it could ruin your day. Because
well, when you get pulled out, so you got pulled out in your kayak or in your float tube?
In the float tube. The kayaks are lightning quick. So there's not much that could overwhelm the kayak.
Oh, yeah. How'd you get back in once you got pulled out to the ocean? How'd you get back in your float tube?
You wait. You either call your wife and say, pick me up, or you wait out the tide so you can get back to where you were.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you get two. And what is your model of Hobie cat you have?
I have a Lynx, which is a hard hull made out of the material that a stand-up paddleboard is made out of. Without all the stuff, it only weighs 40 pounds, which means I could pick it up and put it on top of my truck easily, right? They're fairly expensive, though, and I lucked out because, I had a buddy at Hobie who got me a deal. Most of the people in my club, though, have what are called the I-11, the Hobie Mirage I-11, I meaning inflatable. So the inflatables are easy to pack up, right? You just throw them in the back of your truck. In fact, they make an I-9 that technically you could check on an airplane. They're also, kind of expensive, and I wish I had one, honestly. But that's the prevalent one, only because it's so convenient.
Yeah, I see. These Hobie cats are they're more like stand-up paddleboard than they are kayaks. It looks like they just have a chair that's on.
Mine is more like a stand-up board. The inflatables, the I-11s are, you could stand up from your chair, but if I wanted to, I could walk up the bow and down the stern in my kayak. Totally stable. Now, being that said, that neither of these kayaks are ready for our open ocean. The Pacific. The swell is just too big. They wouldn't tip over per se, but you'd take water.
You would. Have you been out on the ocean in yours?
Yeah. When it gets really mellow.
Really mellow.
Yeah. It's fun to fish the kelp. We get in the summertime in San Diego, we get a lot of species that come in our waters, including Dorado, mahi-mahi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they come within, 100 yards of shore. Shoot, we had a great white shark wander in here the other day and stare at some surfers. Yeah. So lots of species. We didn't talk about surf fishing. Our surf fishing is awesome.
Yeah, surf fishing is good.
At certain times of year, and we're coming up on it. We're talking in April, or is it May?
April, May, almost May. Yeah.
And that means the Corbina with a B, which is the Southern California version of bluefish. That's when they come in. And if you think the steelhead is the fish of 5,000 casts, well, the Corbina is the fish of 10,000 casts. But when you catch them, when you hook them and they fight like hell. They're super fun to catch. The real pros, which I am not, the real pros actually spot fish them. They hunt them. They can see them. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. So that's just starting to happen. I was watching on the club's Facebook site that the people are just starting to catch the corbita in our site.
So that's right now. So that starts right now in May.
Yeah, May to July.
Okay. Yeah, we have a couple episodes we cover. I think we had Al Q on quite a while ago.
Guy. He's a great guy. I love that guy.
And Tyler Vanistel was on.
Yeah, Tyler's a member of our club. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did a great job talking about the surf fish. It was a good episode. We'll put links to those in the show notes.
Also a great guy, Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler's awesome. Good. So yeah, you guys have that. Well, I am interested because I think we haven't talked as much about the kayak stuff, right? It sounds like that if you were going to be down there, that'd be a thing. And you're saying in the bays and kind of everywhere you could use these boats, lakes, kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and there's certain places like in Mission Bay down south that you could rent them. So a big thing about San Diego fly fishing, just like Hawaii, is people vacation here. And they'll either send a note through our website, the club's website, or they'll find us on the club's Facebook page, and they'll say, "Hey, coming on vacation to San Diego. What do I do? What do I bring?" And I'm so proud of my club because they're so wildly helpful to these visitors. So if you do that, if you come vacation in San Diego and you can break free for a couple hours, man, there literally are a plethora of opportunities. Even if you wanted to rent one of these Hobie kayaks from like Fast Lane Kayaks down in Mission Bay, yeah,
you should get. So if you're coming down to San Diego, get a kayak for sure.
Well, float tube's fine. In all honesty, for our bays, the float tube is fine. And if you don't want to bring a float tube, don't bring anything. Bring a bathing suit and fish our surf. Get a 6 or a 7 weight so you can punch through the wind and throw clousers into our surf and you'll catch a gazillion surf perch.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's cool. I think there are a lot of opportunities. You mentioned 30 species, which is cool. And those are in the bay. Is that where you're getting a lot of those? Is that kind of where there's a diversity of species there? Yeah.
So there's basically you could argue 4 basic types of saltwater fishing in San Diego: the surf, the bays, the open ocean. And the trick with the open ocean is you have to be on some type of vessel that will support a fly fisherman. So, the charter boats, they cram like 30 people and sit in the kelp. Well, the last thing they want is a fly fisherman.
No, they don't want to fly here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a little tricky. And then the Baja thing. Oh my God, I'm in love with the Baja thing. We're very close to an annual club trip, which is most people's favorite. And that's that mangrove thing I was talking about. It's Mexico. So, it's not for everybody, and it's camping.
Sounds amazing.
So it's not for everybody, but the fishing is ridiculous.
It is. So what are you going for on the Baja?
That's basically the same thing. There's multiple species, a lot of which I have to ask my, buddies in the club, what the hell is this?
What about the rooster fish?
The roosters, we do 2 annual trips a little bit farther to a tiny city called La Ventana. We use this resort, picture me putting that in quotes because it's Mexico. It's called Palapas Ventana, fairly inexpensive. The guides, picture that in quotes because they're really just ponga drivers that speak only Spanish. They take you out, the food, air-conditioned rooms, the whole thing. But you go out each morning and they make bait with, and the bait down there is a Mexican sardina, flathead herring, which is different than our anchovies and sardines here in San Diego. It has a spot, like a false eye. Anyways, they make bait, and we run out to Cerralvo Island, which is, I don't know, a 20-minute trip. That Cerralvo Island is famous because that's what Jacques Cousteau called the world's aquarium.
Oh, yeah.
That was his favorite place in the world. And anyway, they chum the water with this bait, and the fish come from everywhere. The roosters, the Dorado. It's the easiest fly fishing in the world. You have to use like 10 and 12 weights because the fish are so huge, and you use 20, 30, 40 pound fluoro as your leader. And they all bait fish patterns, right? But, you're using floating lines. So they come up top and they go ballistic. And the first time I caught a Dorado, I almost fainted. I'd never seen a fish swim that quickly. It came from I could see it because the water's crystal clear. I could see it from 100 feet away I actually roll casted because I couldn't get a cast because I would have hooked my buddy behind me. I roll casted about 20 feet, and this Dorado came from 100 feet away like a freaking jet. They swim over 55 miles an hour, and he hit this thing so freaking hard it almost ripped the rod out of my hand. And then I was hooked, right, Dave? Oh my God, how could fly fishing be more fun than this?
Right.
Yeah.
God, that's crazy. And you're getting some roosters, catch them off the boat too?
Yeah, the Dorado are super easy to catch. The roosters, I don't want to say smarter, but they're more finicky about an artificial bait. So you really got to make a good cast, trip as fast as you can to fool them, throw it into existing bait, live bait, but when you catch a big rooster, it's like your first steelhead. It'll change your life. It's also every muscle in your body will hurt.
Do you think you need a bush plane to fish Alaska's legendary waters? Think again. FishHound Expeditions specializes in road accessible adventures that don't skip on excitement. Picture yourself fishing for massive rainbow trout, Arctic grayling, and plenty of salmon species all within Alaska's epic road system. It's doable. I fished the road system on our first day with Adam and the crew, and it did not disappoint. The largest leopard rainbow I caught and landed was right off the road system. And we'll be driving up again this year, heading up from the lower 48 all the way up to Alaska to hit those streams again. You'll experience the breathtaking beauty of Alaska's wilderness, from mountain streams to hidden rivers. Perfect for anglers of all levels. FishHound Expeditions makes it easy to explore Alaska. Why wait? Your Alaska adventure is just a drive away. Book your spot now before spaces fill up. That's fishhoundexpeditions.com. FishHound expeditions.com. Don't miss out. Pescador on the Fly offers a full spectrum of fly fishing gear for any angler at any budget. By bringing high-performance rods directly to the angler, they eliminate the middleman markup, saving you time and money. The top-tiered El Rey series is designed for serious anglers, with the El Rey G6 being the most packable, high-performance rod on the market. And most anglers who try the G6 can't believe it is a 6-piece rod. It performs just like a 4-piece. There's no difference in performance. Whether you're fishing local streams or embarking on your next adventure across the world, the G6 delivers precision and power wherever you go. You can get 10% off your next order right now if you use the code WETFLYSWING at checkout. That's pescadoronthefly.com. Use the code WETFLYSWING for 10% off. Never fly without your G6. Discover the El Rey series and more at pescadoronthefly.com.
So yeah, we mentioned the San Diego club. I want to hear about that a little bit. You mentioned you guys do a lot of events. Maybe talk about the club, like if people were down there, if they wanted to get some information.
Well, you don't have to join the club. We help anyone, because it's such a vacation destination, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
We help anyone. You can come to our meetings because it's a big club and we do so much conservation and outreach and fundraising. We put a lot of money to a lot of great organizations. Like a couple of weekends ago, we Casting for Recovery. That's those amazing women that face death and they're taught how to fly fish. So I guide for Casting Recovery, and we give them a ton of money. Well, in my meager terms, a ton of money. But we do, free casting lessons every Saturday morning.
Oh, you do? Every Sunday morning, so free casting lessons.
Yep, and that is really well populated. And those guys just love to teach people how to fly cast. And okay, so there's another 52 events. Well, that's probably more like 50. I think they take Christmas off, those guys and gals. A lot of women in the club, which is great. Where we're really hurting, in all honesty, is diversity. We need more young people. We need more young people and we need more brown people, but we're doing pretty good in that respect. Because we raise so much money, I have the budget to hire some pretty big guns in the fly fishing world to come speak at our our monthly meeting.
Do you do these monthly meetings by like Zoom and in person?
We do them in person now.
So everybody's coming in. So you got a big group coming in person.
Yeah, we typically average 50 to 100 in the room for our monthly meetings. And it's we hold those at the Southwestern Yacht Club in Point Loma, which is just a beautiful place in San Diego, right next door to the Naval Dolphin Training Center.
Oh, yeah.
Where they train the dolphins to look for bombs or whatever they.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We're a military town, so you could be float tubing next to an aircraft carrier and get yelled at in San Diego Bay, and every once in a while, one of those nuclear subs will just appear,
Pop up.
Yeah,
Right.
There's legendary stories.
Oh, man.
One of those multi-million-dollar jets crashed into our bay about a month ago, 2 months ago.
Really?
It was in national news. No one got hurt, but they had to eject. And that crashed within a quarter mile of that Wednesday float tubing group I was telling you about.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
what the heck's going on? That's crazy. So
excitement fly fishing in San Diego.
Yeah. So you have these events. So once a month, you guys meet up. You have 50, 100 people, and then what does that look like? What is the meeting? What do you guys do typically?
I get up for 2 minutes and talk about either fishing events we have coming or conservation events that we have coming. We do a ton of conservation, and I should talk briefly about that at some point.
Let's hear that.
Because it's important stuff. And then I let the speaker go. And the speaker, we don't waste a lot of time, with us. The speaker, speaks for 45 to an hour, and then most of them love to do Q&A, so we do that. Conservation, we have a legendary member of the club, at least legendary in California. His name's Gary Strawn. He leads our conservation group. He is most famous for repair, restoration, and enhancing the spawning grounds in the Golden Trout wilderness for the California Golden Trout. We do that twice a year. It includes building artificial beaver dams, just like Trout Unlimited, who's now involved with us, improving the stream beds, things like that. But most importantly, in the spring, they put up fences to protect these streams from the cows. Believe it or not, we have ranchers with multiple heads of cattle that are grandfathered into letting their cattle roam free in the Sierra Nevadas. It's a bummer, but
in the creek, they can actually go in the creek.
Oh yeah, they stomp right through it.
Oh wow!
So we put up fences in the spring and we take them down in the winter because the winter is so punishing that it'll knock them down anyway.
Oh no kidding! So you put up temporary fencing just for the summer,
right? And we've been doing this for years. And guess what? If you ever want to catch a golden trout, this is the easy way to do it because there's a ton of them because of the work that these folks have done. We do a lot of eDNA testing, too. You may have heard about the Southern California steelhead, which was once thought to be extinct. It is not. So we eDNA test for where their populations are. I've got to do that. It's crazy.
Is this the McLeod? Is this like the McLeod strain, or what is this?
No, these are all the SoCal strains. The McLeod's way.
Oh wow! So you're talking, historically, because steelhead did go into Mexico even historically, right?
Oh yeah. The Southern California steelhead still is in Mexico.
So is there still a few fish remaining down there of the Southern California?
Yeah, and we've proven it in eDNA testing. The weird thing is, that because of what we've done, whether it be dams or whatever, these fish have evolved to these adronomous fish have evolved to only come into freshwater like once every 5 years when we get enough rain and these creeks get big enough. So they don't go every year like a West Coast steelhead, the northern steelhead. They go every, and they're smaller, obviously, because they're in smaller creeks. It's a super cool story. Yeah.
This is really interesting because this is the first time I've heard about these southern cow. You've always heard that they've just kind of been extirpated from, there. And have you seen have they seen spawning fish at all down there?
I've never seen spawners. I've certainly seen the fish.
You have?
I haven't seen reds or anything like that because it is so overgrown, bushwhack, no trail, just brutal hiking. There's a river, the San Luis Rey in the Camp Pendleton property in the Marine base, which is huge. If your listeners aren't familiar, that's what we say separates us from them. That separates San Diego from Los Angeles, this giant, or Los Angeles, Orange County, this giant Marine base, which also has a wild population of bison. That's how big this Marine base is. So there's some creeks in there, and I don't want to say they're thriving, but they're in there. They're in there. And so we get special permission from the Marines and, get biologists involved, from the state, and we hike our way up there and we do our eDNA testing.
Yeah, who would be the one to talk to on that? Because I think this is a really interesting conversation on the southern, this would be probably the southernmost.
Gary Strawn, and you could reach him at conservation@sandiegoflyfishers.com.
Okay, Gary. Yeah, we'll talk to Gary then. Yeah, because I think that part of that is it's cool because, with steelhead, there are some species, right, that are resident and then they become anadromous or vice versa, right? So you probably have some of that going. That's probably what's kept that steelhead strain going.
Yep.
I'm guessing.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, this is amazing.
I mean, certainly they were overfished, 100 years ago. They're definitely overfished in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles River, which goes all the way up through Pasadena into the mountains, had a huge population of steelhead 100 years ago.
Right.
They're trying to fix that. They're throwing a lot of money at it. There's some great people involved in that, too. Bernard Yin comes to mind. He would be a great interview for you. A huge conservation guy up in SoCal, and a generally great guy. And his real job is he's a rock star. So you want to talk to him too. It's a lot more.
You mean he's actually a rock star?
He's actually a rock star. It's a lot more interesting than software. Let me tell you, Dave.
Right.
Yeah.
Bernard Yin.
I'll hook you up with him. Great guy. Okay. Great guy.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's go back. So we talked about the club, which is great. You guys have tons of events. They can follow you, sandiegoflyfishers.com. The other thing I want to get out before we get out of here, maybe we can just start with our conservation kind of corner here as we kind of take it out of here in a bit. But I want to talk about some travel tips because you've traveled all over the world, and I want to get you thinking like, okay, we've got some listeners that want to do more traveling, and what should we be thinking about there? So first on the conservation, we just talked about. Anything else you want to spotlight for the conservation work you have?
We also do work in the Golden Trout Wilderness on the other side of the mountain, and that's, trail repair, things like that. That's where I guide, by the way, in the Golden Trout Wilderness. There's no roads into the Golden Trout Wilderness. You have to hike, except with two exceptions. I guide for two different entities, which are worth mentioning because it makes something very difficult easy. One is a place called Peppermint Falls Ranch. Some rich guy bought this huge property on the wild section of the Kern River, like 50 mile by 50 mile property. And it allows you to drive a road, not a dirt road, a real road within striking distance of the river. So you don't have to backpack. You just did, this 20-minute hike down to the river. That's a special place, Peppermint Falls Ranch. The other one is Golden Trout Wilderness Pack Trains. So if you don't want to do the backpacking thing, which I do a lot of, like, put 40 pounds on your back and spend a few nights, hike a bunch of miles, they'll hike in your stuff on a mule train. And if you want to ride a horse in, you can. I've got a guide trip for a week coming up to so far up the Kern River. It's a place I've never even been. And it's the only way we could do it is with the mules. And I can't wait because it's basically at the backside of Mount Whitney, the largest mountain in the contiguous United States. And that's what the Kern River drains.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm totally stoked. And there's three wild natives in this area, the Golden Trout Wilderness, the Golden Trout, the Little Kern Golden, and then the not so golden Kern River Rainbow, which gets huge and mean, and it's wild, it's native, and it's almost exclusive to the river. Almost.
Right.
There's a bit in the eDNA testing I've been doing. There's a natural barrier, and there's a couple brown trout here and there because they were planted in a creek 100 years ago and blah, blah, blah. They don't stock it anymore, thank God. But above that, it's 100% pure strained wild natives. And that just means they're eager to take an artificial and they fight like hell.
Right. And that, I guess for those that don't know, the eDNA is environmental DNA. So you're sampling the water. Basically, you can go to an area, sample the water, and it'll tell you by doing your samples, like what species were there, right, within a certain time.
Yeah. When we were talking earlier, I said the great thing about fly fishing is there's no technology. Well, I guess I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah, this is tech. This is pretty high. Is this pretty high tech? Is this not quite at Microsoft level?
Totally high tech.
How does it work? Do you know the tech? Do you know how it works?
Yeah, I do. Guys like me go into these watersheds and take a sample with this kit, and if it's really clear, crystal clear water like the Upper Current River, then it takes forever to get the DNA out of the river because you're pumping it, and it's basically, in simple terms, there's a screen that's catching the DNA. The cool thing on the backside, so you send in the kit to these laboratories, the backside. The cool thing on the backside is if you say, I want to test for humans, it will. And it'll tell you if there are humans upstream, right? If you step in the river and your skin touches it, it'll catch your DNA, right? If you want to test for some of our animals in this part of the world, the Golden Trout wilderness are either extinct or getting extinct. Like there's a beaver, there's an otter, and you just rarely see them anymore. This area used to have grizzly bears 100 years ago. It no longer does, but we test for basically salmonoids. At least me and my club do. Other entities will test for different animals. There's text moving quickly, as you know. There's no one catch-all test. Tell me everything that's alive in the river, including the bugs. There's no catch-all test for that. Oh, by the way, you can test for bugs too.
You can.
So if you want to, the world famous Steve Shalla of the Sierra flyfishthesierra.com says that we have over 300 species of midges in the Sierras. So if you want to test for 300 different species of chironomids, you can.
Well, I could see how that would be important because I think the bugs tell you a lot about the quality, water quality of the stream, right? If you have a bunch of...
So imagine a world long. This is the world I do not want to live in. So hopefully I'll be gone. But imagine just sticking a device in a river and it telling you what's hatching. That to me is totally wrong. But,
Right. Well, it's already getting there. I think some of these areas, the forward-facing sonar you hear about that people are using in lakes where they can actually, it's like watching it on, like a video game. You can see exactly the species.
And I mentioned, at least to you, maybe not on this, that, I've been doing AI for over a decade.
Yeah, that AI definitely is taking over. Like AI is taking over.
AI is another bad. There's certain components of AI that I would call bad, and one is not in the U.S. because it's so illegal, but in Mexico, they'll send out drones, and the drones have a camera. You run an AI algorithm, a model that does computer vision, and it identifies species. So they'll send out the drone and just say, go find me a marlin. And it will. And then it'll steer you to the marlin. That I think is totally wrong. That's ruining the sport of fly
that is
fishing.
ruining.
Actually, fly fishermen don't do that. But the conventional folks,
But that's kind of similar, in ways to the sonar, the forward-facing sonar.
Yep.
Right, where you're actually, a lot of people are saying the same thing. I mean, there's a certain point where, you've just gone over. You've gone too far.
It's no longer, an art or a sport.
Yeah, right.
It's not fishing anymore.
No.
It's catching.
Wow. So that's bad AI. What's good AI?
Well, the AI is solving some of the world's, at least on the provider side of healthcare, it's solving a lot of problems. For instance, I read the other day, I wish I was involved in the project. I've been involved in a lot of cancer research projects as it relates to AI, but the trickiest cancer is pancreatic. If you get pancreatic cancer, you're lucky if you get a year, right? Typically you die in 3 months. I read that the AI mapped the protein structure of how the pancreatic cancer thing morphs, something like that, which is a huge leap into understanding what the hell happens. If you understand what the hell happens, you can have AI help you manufacture a drug that either stops or, enhances or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah.
So that's the cool stuff about, and that's really tech. I think a lot of people, when they think of the world's problems, environmental too, right? You think like, oh God, we got all these problems, water quality, everything. But I think people say, well, maybe the technology eventually will save some of these. And I think people are hopeful. But yeah, I mean, that's a potential, right? The tech could keep getting smarter. AI might.
That's an easy one. Helping us do menial tasks, no brainer for AI. Telling, back to Mac and Windows, telling Excel to build me a spreadsheet that is based on this and has a pivot table and a bar chart, just telling the computer to do it and it doing it.
Yeah.
That this is stuff that's going to help us. Yeah, unfortunately, the news, at least I can speak for U.S. news, only talks about, scamming old people out of their money,
Right.
and doesn't really focus on the great things that are happening in AI. And that's a shame. And, so when I get up on stage and do this keynote, I talk about, AI is kind of like a nuclear weapon because, we got the microwave oven from nuclear technology. From nuclear technology, we can certainly have propulsion. We have electricity generation. Fire alarms are based on nuclear technology.
Oh, wow.
But it's also the most destructive and awful weapon in the world.
Exactly.
So that's kind of AI. AI could be the most destructive weapon in the world in the wrong hands,
Right.
without being controlled. We're not talking about fly fishing, but the big concern for people like me is that the tech is outpacing the security it needs.
Right. Well, the worry is, this is almost, it's like aliens coming down, right, to the planet. The worry is the Terminator thing, right? I mean, that's the amazing thing is that AI, right? Okay, this thing takes over. It's like, you humans, we don't need you anymore. Let's just
Right. It's a great movie line that's been done a bunch of times.
a bunch of times. What's scary to you, Tim? Is it scarier to have
Well, deep fakes.
AI taken over? You either have three things: AI takes over, you have aliens coming down, or a nuclear thing. Which one?
Oh, God. All those are scary. I could tell you, people that are afraid of robots taking over, I promise you, we are at least a decade away from AI reasoning or being creative. Those are two biggies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're a decade away from that. And basically because of CPU power
Oh,
and
right.
battery. Yeah, we just don't have the power. The human brain calculates it like, what is it, like 150 trillion calculation per seconds or something like that. But beyond calculation, which is the only thing that AI can do, the human brain reasons, and there's no way to explain that scientifically, and that's why we're far from AI doing it. Now, politics scares me a lot more than AI. Isolationism,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
world.
Politics.
There's crazy people all over the world now. It used to be only crazy US people that shot at schools. Now that's all over the world. People need to get in the wilderness. Here's the problem. People aren't getting in the wilderness.
Yeah, that's where the fly fishing comes in, I think,
Yeah.
right? I think we need to keep that message is what needs to keep going. We need more people, although that's kind of the ironic thing too, right? More people out fly fishing means more crowds. But I think overall it's a better thing.
Yeah, and people need to, people are afraid to go into parks these days, to take their children into parks.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts.
And we all know, those of us who have wandered into the wilderness know how, mentally healing and how much clarity we get from that experience.
Yeah.
That, I think, that we have people growing up in cities that have never seen fish or trees.
That should be part of it. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing some of that down where you're obviously in a very heavily populated area, right? So you have, those opportunities to teach some of that. What do you think? Let's take it out of here with our, like we mentioned, some travel tips, because you've traveled all around the country, all around the world. What do you, somebody's out here, maybe they're new to some of the travel. What are you telling somebody to maybe help them on their fly fishing journeys? Is there anything that you've learned?
Well,
I know, like,
I can tell you what my biggest barrier was, and I casually mentioned how I overcame it. My biggest barrier when traveling, at least business travel, when I wanted to, just grab 2 hours after work and, find a stream, is finding where to park. Right?
Oh, where to park?
Yeah, because the difference between private water and public water, if you've traveled like me, you've had a rancher come up and stick a gun in your face and say, hey, you step on my land and I'm going to shoot you. And I'm like, oh, I thought I knew the rules. I thought I was okay here standing in the river. Well, you are, but if you stand on my land, I'm going to shoot you,
Right.
So the trick for me always was, I don't want to waste time searching on the internet or maps. I just want to park. If I could get my rental car within a place to where I fish, I'm good. If I can see the water and read the water and look at bugs, I can figure that part out. So, like I casually mentioned, I built this incredible list of places to park, this GPS file. and I offer it up on my website.
Oh, you do? So you can actually get a hold of this list.
Oh, yeah. I'm all about sharing, but there's guidance documents on my website that I sell for $5, and all that money, 100% of it goes to CalTrout. CalTrout is an amazing organization specific to the waters of California, complementary to you. They're not combative. They work together.
Okay, where can we find this this parking list on your site?
JimHuckaby.com/shop, I'm guessing.
/shop. Okay,
yeah.
so shop, that's the fly fishing shop. And then there you have links to...
There's guidance documents. There's,
Oh, yeah, guidance. There it is. Yeah, guidance
there's
documents.
a few flies that I've invented. You can buy them there. Please don't buy a lot of them. You know what? I started selling those flies because I worked on the e-commerce server at Microsoft, and a decade later, I was thinking like, I want to learn how the tech has changed, so I'll sell a couple of my flies. Well, there's nothing worse than someone begging you to get a FedEx out, when you're tying at 3:00 in the morning for the poor guy who's taking a trip, and then you got to just turn, So what's the point? The point is, I don't offer those things on my website because that's my career or, paying our mortgage. I do it because I love people to have fun. And those particular flies for this particular part of the world are wildly effective.
Yeah.
They're guide flies. If do you
that's the guide
flies on your podcast? Guide flies are the ones that don't look so pretty in the shop, in the bins. Guide flies are the ones that look, from the bottom look good, the way the trout.
Exactly. Yeah, guide flies are the ones that you can tie really quick, and the ones that are work. And then if you add a magic marker,
they look good on the bottom. Yeah, from the bottom up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we've talked guide flies from some good a mix of people here. But no, I see it now. You got and the other shout out I'll give out is to Trout Routes. There's any of those apps that show land ownership now.
Yeah,
right? You can see exactly on X. I mean, where you are, and I think those are.
So there you go. I am a hypocrite because I do use a lot of tech in fly fishing.
Yeah,
I stare at maps all the time. You know what?
Yeah, maps are great.
What we need? We need some motivated person to do like BLM mapping for the U.S. for specific to fly fishing. Like, where is the BLM land that is right on the river that I can disperse camp and fish without?
Oh, that's out there. I'm 100%. I mean, I don't know if Trout Routes has it, but I'll bet you they might, or Onyx, which are the same company now. So
yeah, Onyx out of Bozeman. Yeah, great company. Yeah, and Trout Routes I've used too, but. If you go to the BLM website, it's so overwhelmingly complicated because it's federal government. But
right.
So I want those features in Trout Routes and Onyx and Gaia.
Yeah. So we got the tips. So we got the mapping stuff. What else what if somebody's hopping on a plane traveling to the other side of the country?
Reach out to the local fly fishing club of the area and say, hey, I'm visiting the area. Where should I fish and what should I throw? And I guarantee you they will help you because that's what we do.
Yeah. That's why fly fishing clubs, that's one of the reasons it's great, right? It's like a fly shop, kind of a local place that knows the area, knows the people.
Yeah. Fly fishers typically help each other. It's very rare where you run into that guy. My son guided in Montana for a number of years, and he'd tell you it's the best job in the world except for that one guy out of 20 that ruined the experience.
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah, that's always there's that. Nice. Well, this has been awesome, Tim. I think we'll send everybody, like we said, timhuckaby.com if they want to check in with your stuff, your flies.
Yeah, feel free to give me a shout. Yeah, you can contact me right off that site. Yep.
Okay, and San Diego flyfishers.com if people want to check in with the group there. And
if you want a vacation in San Diego, we'll take care of you.
We do. We're going to be heading down there. I think we'll be hitting you up, maybe hitting, Universal Studios, some of that stuff here in the not too distant future. So, and I want to hear more of these stories about Microsoft, Bill Gates.
With the F word, yeah. All right. We'll do that. We'll fish, Dave.
All right, Tim. Thanks a lot. We'll be in touch.
Take care, buddy. Later.
All right, there we go. Another one for the books. I hope you got your fill of the tech on that one. I'm not sure how you're listening to this. Take a look at it. Are you on an iPhone? Are you on an Android? Look at what's going on. Tim's the guy who's driving some of this stuff. But if you get a chance, check in with Tim. Let him know you heard this podcast. If you're interested in heading down to San Diego, we might be doing some big things with the San Diego Fly Fishers moving ahead this year. We see a trip in the future. So let me know if you want to go down there and chase maybe that Baja trip. Send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com, and just put a message subject line for trips. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast. Follow us, and you'll get that next episode delivered to your inbox. And I'm going to get out of here. That's all I have for you today. I appreciate you for checking in today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hope you have a great morning. Hope you have an amazing afternoon or evening. If it's evening and you're going for it right now, hope you enjoy it. And we'll see you on that next episode. Talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.